Welcome to the Halo Effect, hospitality stories with Ashleigh and Michael Donald.
With over 40 years working in the hospitality industry, we've lived some incredible experiences, and as a husband and wife team, we continue to forge our path through business and life that continues to present challenges and opportunities. Through this podcast, we would like to share these experiences and provide some behind-the-scenes insights into the world of hospitality and entrepreneurship.
We hope that this will help anyone who is on a similar journey by sharing how we forged our own path through this incredibly rewarding, yet often challenging industry. Hello and welcome to the very first episode of the Halo Effect, hospitality stories with Ashleigh and Michael Donald. A brand new podcast.
So this is something that we've been hoping to do for a little while, but it's only really after a lot of reflection on what value we could share, and so much thanks to the support that we've been given. We're here to kick things off. So let's get started with this first step.
Well, for us, it always comes down to the journey. The journey, whether it's a customer journey or an actual physical journey or a career journey, they are great stories to tell and for people to learn from. Whether you are considering going into a career in hospitality, looking to develop within hospitality, or hoping to diversify your career. Maybe you have a few hopes and dreams. Maybe you want to start a family but are worried about it's not the right time. Or maybe you want to start a business and you want to launch that. Maybe you're working from home and you find that particularly challenging. Maybe your partner also works from home and you find that isn't working for you. Maybe you work with your partner and you want to know how people manage to make that one work.
Yeah, how do they make that work? Well, we've probably been there through so many of these situations. Each of us has, 20 years experience in hospitality and 5 years in entrepreneurship, working together, launching our business. So really, we're here to share some of our experiences. We'll take a look at lots of different stories, both from our experiences, but also from friends and colleagues in the industry. And we really just want this to be a really kind of engaging and storytelling platform.
So we thought a great place to start would be to have a little chat about how Halo was born. Where do we need to go back to, Ash?
Gosh. So
when did we start thinking of Halo?
Well, I think, I guess the biggest catalyst was we'd obviously worked in hospitality for all of our careers pretty much, but I think both of us, it's fair to say, we were always looking to what we could do to set up our own business, but we weren't quite sure what that looked like. And I remember looking at premises to maybe have a cafe. I do recall you wanting to set up a micro brewery at one stage.
I knew you'd a pun.
But that was kept to the garden shed with your home brewing. But then I think it was really the catalyst of us leaving our careers in London, which coincided with starting a family. And we came back to the Northeast, which is obviously where I'm from. I might tell from the accent. But, we came to this amazingly vibrant city, really entrepreneurial city of Newcastle. But it was quite hard to kind of see how we could almost recreate our careers from London in Newcastle. There were such different cities, and but we knew, supporting a young family, we needed to do something quite quickly. And you got a job quite quickly, I remember. But then I think,
well, it felt very natural to try and get a job. And
it was
that was the natural thing, and I managed to get a job. But it wasn't really the right fit, and we kind of knew that at the time. But we kind of needed a job, and we needed a new mortgage and all that kind of thing, and it all kind of worked out in that sense. But the job itself didn't last particularly long, and you were on maternity leave at the time, so we didn't have that many options of actually sort of working full time. But then we decided to just go for it.
Yeah, and I think again it was, we were given such great opportunities through our amazing network of friends in the hospitality industry who knew that we'd left our full-time roles, that knew we had lots of experiences to share, and they really invested in us and brought us in to do some freelance projects initially, which really gave us the confidence to think, actually, there is a market for this. And I think we'd both probably thought of our career paths, although both in hospitality, has been somewhat different, because your background was very much in the guest experience and the more operational side, that front of house, meeting and greeting guests, and really sort of delivering that amazing guest experience, whereas my experience was more hospitality marketing and PR. But actually, when we really sat and thought about it, bringing those two elements together is really powerful. And actually, that whole halo effect of the power of the first impression, whether that be through the impact of a marketing and PR campaign, or when the guest first walks through the door of a hotel or a restaurant, that's where those impressions are made, and that's where those lasting impressions and the halo effect comes into play. And we thought, well, actually, that's what we do, and that's what we do together. And that's how really I think the halo effect and halo was born.
Yeah. Sort of managing customer expectations and really exceeding them has always been what I thought was really key to what a luxury, or not even luxury, is it? It's just a great experience, because you can have it in a great pub or a great restaurant or a great hotel. You can have great experiences, and they don't necessarily have to be, really fancy. But certainly, sort of growing up in Ireland and spending time in the Northeast, and having spent so much time in London, we always recognised that there was sometimes a disconnect in experiences between, that friendliness that you get in the Northeast and in Ireland, and that really slick professionalism that you often, not always, that you often get in London and big cities, and sometimes that same slick experience doesn't have a friendliness, but when you can manage to bring those two together, it is a really, really powerful combination, and that for me is a bit of a halo effect. If you have someone who really seems to enjoy what they're doing and providing a service as well as doing it really well, everything in that experience is then coloured in a really positive light. I think naming the business was the hardest thing.
It definitely was, because I remember kind of having sleepless nights again on maternity
naming children
leave. And
was easy
it was
in comparison to naming
like
a business.
more difficult than naming our own children. That's exactly right. But yeah, I think we definitely gravitated towards something that was very positive, shining a light. And I think coming to the word halo, the halo effect, and then also me personally, that feeling of home and home from home, which you often get in hospitality. For me, the first sign that I see that I'm home is the angel of the north, which obviously angels, halos, there's all of that positive connotation. So that for me was a really personal connection, and I think for me, halo is kind of just, that's what we do. I know when we first launched, we were very mindful that we wanted to remain open to working with all sorts of businesses, whether they were small independents, whether they were large corporates, whether they were in hospitality, or perhaps in industries that were service or retail. And when we launched, we were very much like, we are using our experience in hospitality, which is very transferable, and we can service all of these businesses, and we're all things to all people. And as we quickly found out that actually that isn't necessarily the best way to run a business, and actually we, I think, are so much more confident now, having gone through 5 years and gone through a pandemic, that we are very much hospitality specialists, and that is the industry. And whilst we can work, and we do work with people outside of the industry, that is very much where we've built our careers, built our network, and it's an industry that we love, and it really shines through, I think, in the work that we do. So I think when we named the business, and the full name is Halo Business Consulting, I think in hindsight, perhaps would we have gone with that full name, but I think having Halo obviously on its own, it was kind of already a very well used name. So I think again, these are just such lessons that you learn along the way, But yeah, I think
But then because of our domain name that we have a gohalo.co.uk
yeah,
domain name. A lot of people will just assume that we're Go Halo or Go
which is
Halo.
yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, but
As
I
long as they
think
remember it,
well,
that's
that's it,
that's
and
the key.
yeah, and I just think it's a name that has worked really well, and then I think as we've defined our USP, as it were, around bringing together the guest experience, the marketing, the communications, it's that 360-degree service. It's a real holistic approach to working with our clients and supporting them through their business. And ultimately, hospitality is a people business, and we know the challenges that the industry has faced, both with the pandemic, with Brexit, with having recruitment and retention challenges, that really we are supporting our clients to build loyalty, and that's loyalty from their guests, it's loyalty from their team members. And I know when we were really delving into what our USP was and why that was important, we came across this amazing quote, didn't we, from Harvard Business Review, which suggests that just a 5% increase in loyalty can lead to up to a 95% increase in profitability. So for us, that was kind of the why of, okay, this is what we do and this is the impact that we have, both on the bottom line in terms of your profitability, but ultimately that loyalty of your guests and your team members is that lasting impression. That's where that loyalty is built. Again, coming back to that halo effect.
And you kind of do it through all of these different touch points. There's so many different touch points as you decide to make a reservation somewhere. As you are convinced that this is the right place for you, as you make the booking, as you're kind of reminded about the booking, as you arrive at the venue, your first impressions, your actual experience when you're there, your lasting impressions, your impressions when you leave, and then when you sort of consider going back again, all of the communication throughout that, as well as the experience, is really, really key in determining almost avoiding decisions, almost just making it just really easy for people to want to come back for experiences.
Yeah, and I think it's those anticipatory gestures, which I think we've always done, and I know you throughout your time in the Goring and throughout working in Starwood, where the knowledge of your guests' preferences and their trip persona. So it might be the same guest, but they're there for business, but then maybe next time they're there with their family, and actually what they want and need from those different experiences will very much tailor your approach to working with them. And I think, as you mentioned earlier, it's that experience now starts so much earlier, because we've got all of these amazing ways of communicating with guests and future guests, and that journey of that first impression begins so much earlier. It's very much when they're considering whether they'll choose to stay with you, but you're in competition with so many other experiences or destinations. And the research, I think there's about 26 touch points before a guest will actually make a booking with your business. So they'll do so much research, whether that's looking at social media, looking at other people's social media and getting the FOMO, checking TripAdvisor, OTAs, that they'll really do so much research before they even make a booking. And then, as you say, once that booking is made, that first impression of how that booking is confirmed, how perhaps they've noted personal preferences or special occasions, and then how that is then built up upon their arrival and then delivered. So there's such an importance, and I think that's where the whole marketing and communications element really entwines with the guest experience. Is we are making this promise, it's such an early stage and we're building up that anticipation, so that really has to be delivered and exceeded when the guest steps through the door. And that's where the job of that welcoming team members and
if you can have the technology that can automate and do a lot of that work really well, without having to invest a huge amount of employee time and energy into it, then they can really concentrate on those touch points and making those personal connections with people in person, because we all know how challenging it is for hospitality at the moment. You know, they don't have vast resources of employees, and retaining employees is hard. Attracting new employees to the industry is hard, and the more you can do to give them the fun stuff, the stuff that really challenges them, and those human interactions, the more we can like support our teams with the tools they need to have that confidence to interact with customers and the freedom to do so. Is just a much more exciting experience in hospitality.
Yeah, and I think that you're right that the tools very much empower and enable those really meaningful connections, which builds those long-lasting impressions and therefore the loyalty. I think there has been a rush, and I think that a lot of it is to do with the pandemic, and very quickly hospitality had to become a very contactless environment, and certain technologies needed to be put in place in order to continue to function as a business. And I think, you know, with some of the work that we're doing with our clients at the moment, there's a real almost an audit of tech stacks and how all of the systems interact with one another, because ultimately you know, guest data, again, another figure I think from Forbes is that data is actually more valuable than oil, because it allows us to really understand behaviours, preferences, and from a hospitality perspective, personalise those experiences. But it's got to work. And I think that there are quite a lot of legacy systems that are still out there that maybe don't talk to one another, and there's these kind of data silos, and no
one wants to be getting cold calls from businesses. They've just got your details from somewhere. It needs to. There has to be a purpose in you contacting someone, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
It has to add value to their experience.
And I think if a guest is giving you their data and preferences, you know, that's such a gift, and we need to treat it responsibly, but also use it to add value to their experience. And I think there's some amazing examples of that in the industry, and I think there's also, we're on a journey that we recognise where we need to get to, but also there's quite a lot of kind of housekeeping almost of those systems in order to do that. But you know, that's something I know we both really enjoy, those kinds of projects where we go in and really troubleshoot and audit and then come out with an amazing plan. And
it's
really
Six Sigma background, Ashleigh.
Exactly. So yeah, but I think it's just such a dynamic and interesting industry. It's overcome so many challenges that also coincides, I think, with when we launched Halo, which was just before the pandemic. So I think we've kind of shared those challenges and experiences and helped the industry kind of come through those and learn a lot ourselves along the way. So really looking forward in this series of podcasts to share those insights and really hopefully hear directly from our clients and also from our friends in the industry around, you know, what tips and tricks they're using in their businesses, what challenges they face, how they've overcome them, and really share their story. There's a lot of amazing stories of working in the industry. It's it's a dynamic, can be challenging, but it's something, again, I think, you know, we've invested 20 years in this industry, and we've got so much from it as well. So
thank you for listening to The Halo Effect, Hospitality Stories with Ashleigh and Michael Donald.
Hope that this has helped fellow hospitality people and entrepreneurs who may be on a similar journey.
If you would like to suggest any topics for future episodes, ask us a question, or would like to join us on a future episode of the podcast, then please get in touch. We've linked up our contact details in the show notes.
Don't forget to like and subscribe or follow The Halo Effect on whatever platform you listen to your podcasts. We look forward to welcoming you back to the next episode of The Halo Effect, Hospitality Stories with Ashleigh and Michael Donald.